Hello, hello. Happy Friday. It is another LinkedIn Live Ask Me Anything session with experienced investigators. I'm Jeannie Walters. I'm so happy that you're here. We love hearing from you, so go ahead and let us know where you're joining us from in the chat. And as always, today I have Paige Flanagan from our team here at Experienced Investigators. Paige, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. We've had a busy week.
Yeah, we have. And luckily, a beautiful week here. Is it
That's
been nice there?
We've had some rain and fog and other beautiful days. And I was in New York State this week, and they had some rain while I was there and some beautiful days while I was there. So I think the weather is still making up its mind.
Spring has sprung, as
It
they say.
has indeed, indeed. So yeah, we've got a meaty topic today.
We do.
And this is something that I know we hear a lot of questions just in our work with different clients, and this is
Absolutely.
something that comes up a lot.
Yeah, it is. And I think that what you will talk on is very helpful, and we have lots of great resources. So I'm
Yeah,
excited to get into it.
excellent. Well, as people have questions, you'll be watching that, and then we'll come back at the end and do our best to answer as many as we possibly can. So
Yep.
let's go ahead and get started. All right. Thank you for that. Hi, everybody. I'm Jeannie Walters, and we are talking today about unlocking customer experience ROI in a rapidly evolving world. Now, I don't know about you, but it feels like every day I am trying to keep up, right? We are trying to keep up with technology and demands and the market and all the shifts in the market and all sorts of things. So, that's what we're going to try to highlight today are a few ideas for you to take that you can put into your own work wherever you are. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeannie Walters. I am founder and CEO here at Experience Investigators. We have been doing this work as this company for almost 15 years. We'll be celebrating 15 years in July this year, but I've been in the customer experience world for more than 20. And our goal is to really empower leaders like you to make sure that you are embracing all the power that customer experience can bring to your organization. This is about getting results. And at the end of the day, that means that we want to make customers' lives easier. So the mission of our company is to create fewer ruined days for customers. You being here with me today helps us live that mission. So thank you so much for that. As we go through, please feel free to drop in questions, comments, observations, anything that you'd like along the way, and we will address those as we go, as well as at the end here. So, first of all, let's start with the basics. Customer experience is happening whether you have a strategy or not. You don't even have to say the words customer experience, and your customers are having an experience with your brand. So, what does that mean? Well, that means that the work that we do inside our organizations is really what we're talking about. We have to really flip the script and understand what is the experience that customers are having. We focus a lot on internal processes as business people, and sometimes those aren't working in the way that we expect them to. So, inside the organization, we have a long list of things that we have to consider as leaders in any part of the business, but especially around customer experience. We have to think about what is changing in the world constantly. Experience work is about delivering on expectations. So we have to make sure that we're keeping up with what are those expectations that our customers have. How can we not only deliver on them, but exceed them to stay ahead of the competition? And meanwhile, inside our organizations, we have to make sure that we're delivering for our stakeholders. We are meeting the needs of our supervisors and the employees that serve us all throughout the business and make sure it's aligned with this idea of a customer centric vision. So, having said all that, it can sound like a lot. So, the first thing I'm going to encourage you to do is take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. We can't do everything all at once. But what we can do is make a stronger case. When we talk about the work we do, we have to tie that back to the results from the very beginning. When we talk about ROI or return on investment, that means really understanding that every investment that is made in a business, we need to see the value of that as leaders. And that includes us, that includes the role we play, that includes the efforts that we want to put forth in order to make the customers' lives easier. When we talk about things in broad terms, like we want to be friendlier or we want to make things easier, we're missing an opportunity to really get the buy in and support we need from our leaders. So, what we're talking about inside the organization is really customer experience management. I sometimes call this customer experience leadership within the organization. This is a strategic approach that focuses on proactively designing and delivering the entire customer journey to meet or exceed expectations. So, this is about understanding our customers for sure, but it's not just about that. And what I see in a lot of organizations is that those two things get conflated. We say things like, "Of course, we have customer experience efforts here. Of course, we're investing in the customer experience. We have this great system where we send out surveys or where we collect analytics, and that's we're really listening to customers." But if we're not continuing that cycle, really understanding what are we learning, what should have priority, where do we invest, and then what is the value of that investment, then we're not making a strong case for why to invest in this. So, today we're going to talk about a few ideas that you can apply to think about this in mostly financial ways. But I encourage you to think about what is the return that matters at your organization. This is all about your specific environment, your specific organizational goals, your leaders. So, that's what we have to focus on. So, improved customer experience leads to increased customer loyalty. This is proven again and again and again. So, if customers have a positive experience with your brand, they are 7 times more likely to remain with your brand. 7 times. That means if we're not investing here, then there's a huge opportunity cost. There is a huge investment happening that we're just not seeing because we're losing customers. We're not retaining them. We're not gaining that loyalty long term. Companies that focus on customer experience see their revenue grow 1.7 times faster than those that do not. And their customer lifetime value increases by an average of 2.3 times. These are real numbers. These are things that really have an impact on the overall organizational success. And that's what we need to do. That's what we need to really make sure that we are moving forward with our organization. This is not just talk, this is real business. And too often we treat customer experience and customer experience management as if it's nice to have, as if it's not real, as if it's not something that's part of the business. We invest in other parts of the business without thinking. There's a famous quote about marketing, right? If I only knew which, I know half of my investment in marketing is working, if only I knew which half. We're willing to take the risk on prospecting and sales. We're willing to invest in those things because we understand that the outcome of those things are for the business. We have to start making that case in much stronger ways for customer experience work. So, here are a few key metrics to consider around measuring your customer experience ROI. But I want to make a point here and underline it before we get started. If you don't know what success looks like, it's really hard to measure. So if you have not taken the time to define what is your vision for the customer experience, what is your definition of success with a success strategy, then you can measure all you want and it's all over the place. So while I'm going to give you a few ideas around where to measure return on investment, make sure that you've taken the time to get the foundation right. If you need help on that, we have tons of resources around developing your customer experience mission statement and developing your customer experience strategy success statement. This is where you can really determine what should you be measuring so that you can make a stronger case. So, follow these steps and really think through, what does success look like at my organization, and also focus on the right metrics for you. So, the first step here is identifying and measuring key performance indicators. We also want to calculate and analyze financial returns. Now, sometimes I say this, and a lot of us get into customer experience work because We think, I don't really like spreadsheets. I love the idea of designing experiences and I love the idea of building relationships with customers. And I love the idea of kind of being creative about what that looks like. And then all of a sudden we're in this work and we realize, oh my goodness, we have to really get clear on this. If you're afraid of thinking through the financial returns, trust me, we can pick and we can prioritize the right things and really make it a little more straightforward to again make our business case. We want to utilize all this advanced technology and tools that we have, like analytics and analyzing customer feedback and looking for patterns and all of those amazing things that tools will actually do for us in this case. So, first thing we want to do, identify and measure key performance indicators, KPIs. So, a lot of you are probably already looking at things like net promoter score or customer satisfaction. Maybe you have operational things like average order value, order frequency, price sensitivity, all these things. If your sales team is looking at certain things like order frequency, then you want to make sure that you understand those things as well. How does customer experience impact the metrics that your company cares about? So make sure that you're really looking at things that are related to the entire customer journey. If you understand that net promoter score is really well understood in your organization, but maybe you're in a situation, excuse me, maybe you're in a situation where you're reporting on it annually. And you know what? It's hard to see change sometimes. So you're reporting on it annually, nothing's really changing. People aren't really grasping, why is this a key performance indicator? So then you want to look at what can we track that is related to this that maybe will change or maybe we can have a bigger impact on. So maybe you use net promoter score for your relational metric, but then you can make a case and say, you know what? I want to look at what's happening back here in the journey. I want to look at what happens 2 months before renewal. What happens that people are either going to renew or not? If we can identify what it is that the customers want, then we could increase our renewal rate. If people are renewing, it's usually because they are happy with the product and service. That is telling about the customer experience. So you need to kind of pull the thread, look at root cause analysis, and think about what are those things that we know have an impact on these overall financial ideas of an organization. Now, some of you might be in regulated industries where you don't have the same kind of profitability push. You might be in a nonprofit where you organize your financials differently. You might be in academics or healthcare and all of these things. At the end of the day, every single organization wants to increase revenue and decrease expenses because that allows you to do more in investing back in whatever that looks like. That could mean hiring more people. That could mean more profitability for the owners. That is one of the outcomes that it could mean. It could also mean, you know what, reinvesting in your mission. So if you are a nonprofit and you are doing well financially, that means you can reinvest that. So I don't want you to think of this as, oh, we're talking about financials, we're losing touch with the people. That's not it at all. What we're talking about is how do we do this and measure success so that everybody in the organization wins, so that everybody in the organization understands that, you know what, we're not just talking about how customers feel, we're talking about the impact we have on their lives and how that connects to our mission as an organization. We have to connect all of that on a regular basis to get people to really understand this isn't just nice to have. This is not fluff. This is something that really delivers for our organizations. Here's where we get into a little more of the nitty gritty. We want to calculate and analyze. If you don't know your customer lifetime value, I encourage you to check that out. There are plenty of formulas out there. We have things on our site that can be helpful. I know we've got a really long article that has a lot of information about this um, that we can share with you. And then we also are really looking at how to make sure that we are not losing customers. If you don't know your customer churn rate, that is something that is really powerful because if you see your churn rate going up, you know that something's not going right for customers, and that allows you to really again make your case for why we want to investigate this, why we want to experiment, why we want to interview customers or have some customer journey mapping sessions or whatever those efforts are to really understand customers better. So when we look at feedback from the customers who have left us, that can be super telling. We want to use that as a benchmark to understand the gaps in our service or product offerings. And then we want to think about what would happen if we could close that gap. What would that mean financially? So start extrapolating out those ideas of, okay, if we could get 1% lift in our renewal rate, what would that mean for the organization? Well, in some cases, that can mean millions of dollars. But we have to present that. We have to show that when we invest in this, we are seeing and projecting that return. So, really looking at how, we are going to say, let's use that renewal rate example. We are going to look at the 2 months before renewal. We suggest that we're going to do an A/B test on some communication experiments. We're going to invest in interviewing or inviting customers in or whatever it is. And then we take that cost and we say, yes, we are asking for this investment, but we believe that a 1% lift in our renewal rate could mean $3.2 million or whatever it is. That way, you're speaking as a business person. And this is the part that I see that a lot of customer experience people just are not challenged to speak this way. And so what happens is after a few years of talking about things like net promoter score or talking about things like, you know what, we know our churn rate is going up and we don't quite understand why. It sounds like fluff after a while. So we have to get serious here. We have to be empowered and confident in talking about results like this. If you don't know your customer lifetime value today, that is the thing that I want you to walk away with. Try to determine your customer lifetime value. Is it hard to figure out? Sometimes it is. Sometimes we have to use our best judgment, but there are formulas that can make it a little easier. And you could even make a case for a segment. Find the easiest segment to make your case for. Use that as a benchmark for customer lifetime value. It will elevate your conversations with your leaders. We want to utilize the advanced analytics and customer feedback. Oh my goodness, we are living in a new world with technology and tools. In the last, I would say, year and a half, generative AI has changed a lot of things, including what we can access in our roles as CX leaders. So we want to look at the feedback in new ways. We want to suss out those patterns that we're seeing. We want to find the early warning signals, the things that maybe aren't showing up in quantitative data yet, but are showing up in the qualitative data. The red flags that if we address them now, we will save the company money. If we address them now, we will save customer relationships. We want to start looking at all of those things and make sure that we're prioritizing in the right way as well. And so we want to look for ways that we can enhance the customer journey based on this information. If we are just collecting and reporting on feedback and metrics, we are not leading. And I want you to lead. So that means that instead of just collecting the feedback and reporting on it, we want to say, this is what we're seeing. Here's how we should invest. Here's the return that I think we'll get. So segment your customer base if you can. Look at things like text analytics. Lean into these tools. Lean into, if you have a data analyst on your team or a data team, then lean into them and say, hey, I'm curious about this question because I believe if we can solve it for our organization, that will lead to better outcomes for everybody. That's the language that we have to start using again and again and again. So here we go. When we are looking for where to invest, these strategic investments in customer experience, we need to empower teams and enhance our tools. We need to stay cutting edge here. We need to make sure that our teams understand that their job is not to just deliver on a process, but to think strategically about what will this do for us? If we need to be more efficient about something, how is that connected to the strategic outcomes that we're looking for? We want to lean into that data to drive decisions, and we want to integrate technology and personalization. Personalization is everything right now, and there are still many organizations who cannot personalize the experience. And so we want to make sure that we are really looking for What is it we can do to not only personalize the experience, but do it at scale so that our customers feel valued, but that we're as efficient as we can be when we're talking through those things? So, we also at the end need to make our case. We need to go to our leaders confidently and with the right data and information to say, you know what, we are here to make the business better. We are here to drive results. So, when we talk about strategic investments, some of these investments might take years. They might be big asks. So we have to be brave sometimes and say, here's why I want to upgrade our technology. Here's where I want to make sure that we include more employees in this process. There are so many customer experience teams out there of one or two people at very large organizations. This is a team sport. We need help to get this done and to do it right. That means that sometimes we need to build cross functional teams. We need to ask people for some part time help and support. Sometimes we need more people on our team and we need to make the case for that. So, we want to cultivate a proactive environment by inviting employees to share ideas on improving customer interactions. So, at the bare minimum, we need that two-way communication with employees throughout our organization to empower them to say, I'm seeing this with my own eyes and it's not working for the customer, that they have a place to put that. There's a centralized place where you can start collecting that type of information from employees. It will do two things. Number one, it will give you eyes and ears where you might not have them. It also will empower and engage those employees who are seeing these things, who want to be heard, just like customers do. So if you are starting from scratch, this is where I would start. Think about how can you create that two-way communication. It will help people kind of improve their radar about customer experience issues, and it will empower leaders to start seeing these are real things. These are patterns that our own employees are seeing. We need to help our employees with more efficiency or help them deliver a better customer experience. So this is all about winning in the market. This is all about staying ahead of our competition. If we think about the disruptions of the last decade plus, they have all been experience driven. They have all been about, hey, I'm looking around at my competitors. We're all selling the same products. So instead of competing on product, we are competing on experience. So this is all about staying ahead of your competition. That means we have to have a culture of innovation. We have to have a culture where we're looking ahead in the market and understanding that, you know what, we're going to listen and empower our teams to try things because we know that that's a better way to move forward, that that's the way to innovate ahead of our competition. We also want to look at data to drive decisions. Again, I see lots of customer experience teams who report on data, but they don't use it. They don't really say, wow, here's an insight we gathered from this data. Here's what we want to do about it. Here's how we want to measure our success. Those conversations simply don't happen in a lot of organizations. And so, what we want to do is not just look at the big ones like Net Promoter Score, like I know a lot of you are, but also looking at those transactional points in the journey. What is happening? What is the feedback that we're getting there? How are we watching behavior and observation of what customers are saying and doing? What are the operational metrics telling us? So if we start noticing, for instance, that, you know what, our digital conversion rate is going down, well, let's start looking at the feedback there. Let's start looking at the employee feedback there. Let's see what we can piece together for that bigger picture and then make a case for what we want to do about it. And then, of course, we want to integrate technology and personalization. So, this is really about long term strategies. There are times we have to ask for this. We can't always just put duct tape and chewing gum on the technology we have and hope for the best. Sometimes we need to upgrade, sometimes we need a switch. That is a huge investment of time and resources. And I totally recognize that. So we have to make the case of why in big ways as well. If we are not as efficient as we can be on the inside of our organization, because we're spending so much time working with the technology we have instead of upgrading, then we're missing opportunities. That's an opportunity cost to deliver for customers, to improve those renewal rates, to improve that customer lifetime value. all of those outcomes that our leaders care about. So if you're looking for a big investment like this, if you really believe it, make your case. Say, okay, I believe it will help us be more efficient so that we can focus on XYZ and get these outcomes. And of course, in today's world, personalization is critical. And if we cannot deliver that for customers, that is a strong case. We need to personalize things at scale. And the only way we can do that is with technology. So make sure that as you're thinking about your tech stack or where you're going to invest in technology here, that you're thinking about it for the future. It's not just about today. It's about, we know that personalization will be important. We know omnichannel is very important. We know that, we want more and more automation to leverage to deliver this at scale. If you are looking at a system today in your workflow that is preventing you from doing that, then it's time to consider making that case for something stronger for the future. And then here's how we make our case. We really want to showcase how our customer experience efforts pay off or will pay off or have paid off, both literally and figuratively, because when we talk about things like, yes, we want happier customers because we believe it will get those results we talked about. We believe they will spend more with our organization, that they will stay longer, that they will tell their friends. So when we look at making that case about, here's what we want, here's the ROI that I think we can get, we want to think through, we are either bringing up revenue or lowering expenses. That's a given. And how and where and what will that impact? So here's an example of a little case study. And it really is something that, you start building, you have to communicate, you have to report on it, you have to be transparent about what it all is. And you have to let your leaders know that this isn't something that you're just doing for fun or because customers have, you want to make customers happy. This is bigger. So look to your organizational goals first. So if people are talking about, we need more sales through better conversion rates, we know we're not getting as many conversions as we want. So you run a customer feedback project and you realize, you know what? Customers are hesitant to convert digitally because they couldn't see realistic designs of their project. So maybe there is something where they're not seeing how it's personalized to them. And this can be B2B or B2C. So you offer a customer experience improvement project. You say, we want to invest in digital design and user testing to lead to more conversions. So see how that ends with what the outcome is. That's a big part of this. And then track specific customer feedback in listening posts to see the impacts of A/B testing and pilot programs. So you're saying, let's invest small, see the results, and then keep going. But we need to invest in listening posts and making sure that we understand what the feedback is so that we can continue to evolve and iterate. We want to invest in contact center knowledge base. This is where customer experience leadership is so important because we could say to the digital team, go ahead, improve the digital experience and not really connect the dots to the bigger part of the journey. But we know as customer experience leaders that we need to connect it to the holistic customer journey. We need to think through, it's not just a digital experience, it's an experience throughout the customer's journey, no matter how they choose to interact, no matter what channel they go through. We know that change means people will have questions. They will be contacting our contact center for support. So we want to invest in contact center knowledge base and training for improved support along the conversion journey. So we're going to include our contact center partners. We're going to say, okay, how can we do this? Is the knowledge base it's in a form, is the technology up to date so that it will be as useful as it can be? Is the right data in there so that it's at their fingertips when they need it? How are we going to train them? What will that look like? We need to think through all of that. And then we're going to aim for higher conversion rates and improved feedback scores. Those two things go together. So we're not just saying, yes, we expect our feedback scores to go up. We're saying, yes, we expect conversion to go up as well. And so the ROI here is higher conversion rates and lower service costs. That is powerful return on that investment. So this is how you build your case. You start with your organizational goals. You connect the dots between where are we investing and how will that help us meet those organizational goals. And then you also want to put that hand in hand with what are we learning from customers. This is a constant cycle of understanding our customers, gathering those insights, and committing to those actions. And then really this is about securing a future. And I say that because I see a lot of customer experience leaders who are not set up for success. And one of my goals here is to help you set up for success and continue that success. Drive your future by being really clear about your business case, about making sure that you're engaging the stakeholders, your frontline employees, your customers in the process, and you're fostering that culture that embraces customer feedback and innovation. And ultimately, we want to make sure that we are driving the business forward towards the organizational results that are important to our leaders. So if our leaders never talk about conversion, they're not seeing that, then that wouldn't be a great case study for you. But if they're talking about, you know what, we need more revenue every month. Well, maybe that could be the window in. And you say, we want to see more monthly revenue by increasing digital conversions. That could go together. So use the language of your leaders. Focus on your organizational specifics to really get people to sit up and pay attention and be willing to support the investment because they see the return. So, with that, I think it's a good time to ask for questions. I know I've been seeing things in my periphery here that we have some questions happening. So,
We do. I'm
let's see.
excited about them. We have several good questions,
Great.
and please keep them coming. We love this part of it and getting to connect with y'all and talk with y'all. So please drop them in the chat if you have any questions at all. The first one is from our friend Christopher. What are
Hello,
the
Christopher.
red flag initiatives that look like you are making progress but are very tactical and give false peaks of adoption, which fall away if not watched over?
Oh, what a good question, Christopher. Okay, so the red flags that I see that people spend a lot of time on is simply, well, there are two that I would say. One is only focusing on feedback metrics. So talking about things like, hey, we are seeing an improvement in net promoter score with this segment, or we are seeing customer satisfaction rates go up with this transaction, and not equating that to what that means for the bottom line, what that means for organizational goals. That's great information, that's positive, but if we're only talking about customer feedback metrics, then we're missing that connection between what it's doing for the organization. The other thing I would say is it's very easy to get kind of pulled into the rabbit hole of tracking what's happening inside the organization for one improvement, meaning because we don't always have the authority or accountability to actually make the change. So we might go to our product team and say, you know, we're hearing a lot of feedback about this part of the product and we really need to, you know, close the loop with these customers. What should we tell them? And they say, you know, we're working on that and we'll let you know every month what we're doing. And so it can feel like that's your job to just check in with them, go back to customers, check in with them, go back to the customers. But if that's the only thing we're working on and we're not really using the data to look for other opportunities for improvement, if we're not looking for ways to really improve the efficiency of how we do things, if we're not innovating around the experience, then we're spending all of our time and energy and resources kind of babysitting. And that's a strong term, I realize, but I do see this quite often. And so what happens is the CX team then is reporting things like, well, we have this product improvement project. The product team is working on it. I'll let you know next month how it's going. And it doesn't feel like progress, even if it is. So that's where I really believe that every time you sit down to look at how are you going to report out your progress, you need to start with what is this doing for the organization? What is this doing for the organization? Now, if that is a huge product improvement project, then you can make a case for that. But it can't be the only thing because our job, we have to kind of keep our head on a swivel, right? We have to constantly look for what should the priority be right now. And so if we're too focused on one improvement project that is not really in our control, then we're missing opportunities. There's that opportunity of cost again of what we could be doing to move the business forward. So those are a couple things I would say. Technology projects are always big, like especially if you're making those big changes, that can take up a tremendous amount of time. And sometimes people get obsessed with the process of it. I have seen so many goals around customer experience that include things like get everybody to use, let's say, I'm going to say Salesforce, but it could be any CRM. Get everybody to use Salesforce. That's the goal. And that's a great goal if it's connected to a why. So, why do we want that? Well, we want that because we know that if we have centralized customer data, we can deliver better experiences for them. We know that if we are having everybody use that system efficiently, then our efficiency rate is going to go up, our expenses are going to go down. But we have to explain that. And I've seen that disconnect so many times because it feels like the right thing that we're doing is getting everybody to use the CRM. But that's the tactic. That's not why. We have to talk about the outcome. We have to talk about why that's important, not just to our leaders, but to the people we're asking to participate in that. If they're just thinking it's a process, it's really easy for them to go, it's not really meaningful to me. I've always done it this way. Have you heard that? I've always done it this way. I just keep my customer records on a spreadsheet. It's fine. Well, it's not fine because that's not the goal. The goal is centralization. So connecting the outcome back to even those kind of tough projects that take a lot of discipline and detail, and people kind of lose the forest for the trees when they're only talking about the process and not the outcome. That's what I would say. But
What a good one.
yeah, it's and I see it. Like I'm Christopher asked it because I'm sure he sees it all the time too. So it's something that is really easy to do, and it doesn't just happen in customer experience. It just happens in business, right? Where we kind of forget why we're so intent on getting a process or a system working, and that can make everybody feel a little bit like they're being asked to just do work instead of really connect that to
The
the bigger
goal.
idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Another one I think we got via email, which is another way you guys can send in your questions. If you have anything, I'll throw my email in the chat. Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. We'll bring them to these sessions and answer the questions here. What methods can we use to help us prioritize our CX efforts with a limited budget?
Oof.
Budget.
I know. Priorities always come down to, I think of them as, it comes down to two things. What is the impact and what will it take? Basically, how much effort will it take? And when we talk about priorities in customer experience, it can feel like every single thing is a priority. And other people in our universe often think that. And they come to us and they say, well, this should be a priority and this should be a priority. And the CEO got an emailed complaint to him about something. And you might be able to say, okay, that's really important. I'm glad the CEO has awareness. Here's what we're doing about it. If everything becomes a priority, you are constantly putting out fires. And I know I'm speaking to people right now who are nodding along saying that's all I do is put out fires. So this comes back to what is your vision and how have you defined success? And so you want to go back to, what's most important to our customer experience mission statement? If we have promised that we are going to be the most responsive company or something, then responsiveness has to be really important. That has to be high on the priority list. If you are dealing with limited budget, it's really important to tie back even more to mission and success. So, how have you defined success for your organization? If your organization, going back to that case study, if your organization had said, we need to improve our conversion rates, then that will help you prioritize different improvements based on that. If you know that, you know what, when they talk about conversion rates, it's about digital, that's what we're focused on, that's what we're doing, then maybe the front, if the store windows aren't as clean as they should be and you're seeing that in customer feedback, well, maybe that's not as much of a priority because that's not the focus right now. So it really is about understanding what is most important to your leaders, your organization, and what is the vision that you've created? What is the promise that you've made for customers? And that's how you can start really, again, making a case. If you have a limited budget and you need to make a case for something, you can start with those things. You can say, this will help us live our mission and deliver on the promise. This will help us with those organizational goals that we've identified that we all agree are important. And this will help us understand our customers more so that we can come back and improve even more next time. So that's how you have to build the case, is really thinking about big picture first, what is most important to everybody, and then drilling down into, okay, that means that we have to prioritize X over Y, or we have to make a stronger case for why we need more resources and investment. It's not easy though. I
Mm,
wish this was easier.
me
I say
too.
that all the time
And
because it
I think you're so right about like the prioritizing. Like all of these have been like, because everything just seems so important. Everything seems
Mhm.
like I have to do this to get this to get this, and everybody's
Yep.
trying their best, and it can just be such an uphill battle sometimes.
Well, and I mean, we see this in the coaching a lot too, is that sometimes our coaching calls literally start with, okay, I've been asked to do these 3 things. Like, I don't how am I supposed to do this? And we always come back to the why. We always come back to the outcomes. What are we trying to do? That's how we prioritize. And I really feel for CX leaders because every single one of them is dealing with this. It's never a thing where you can say like, "Oh, the CEO got a complaint. We can just ignore that," right? Like they won't mind. And or the contact center has, a staff shortage and people are really upset about that or whatever. So there's always just one thing after another. And so that's why it's really important. And that's why I started this discussion with like, let's take a deep breath because
Mhm.
sometimes that's what CX leaders need to do too. We need to just take a deep breath, think about what is it we're really trying to do? What is realistic and how can we get there? And that realistic question is also a really important one because
Absolutely.
I mean, and we've seen aspirational ideas that sound great, but if you're working with a CRM system from, 10 years ago and it's not keeping up, then be realistic about that. What can you do? What is the workaround? And just, focus on what you can do and what is most important.
Absolutely. Another one we've got here. What are some of the best ways to foster collaboration and buy in from our various stakeholders to ensure a holistic approach to CX?
Yeah, I think this is such a cultural question, right? It really depends on your organization because some organizations have a more collaborative culture and some don't. So, one thing that I like to remember is that whenever we invite people into our kind of world of customer experience, that's an act of engagement. And that act of engagement can actually build coalition. And that's what we need in order to get that holistic approach. So, one very simple approach is if you see some feedback about any part of the business, you can certainly share that feedback with different people. One caution here is that, and we just talked about this in flight school this week. Uh, one caution is that when we are only presenting the complaints, only presenting the issues, people are going to run the other way in the hallway. So we need to make sure that we're also sharing the great feedback that we get, that we're packaging it a certain way. So sharing that customer feedback is a great way to kind of build that culture and build that coalition that we need. The other thing is let's invite them into things like a customer journey mapping session or do some employee interviews. Say, we're curious about this process on your side because we want to understand it from the customer side. Service blueprinting is another great tool for this because service blueprinting is when you take the customer journey and then you drill down into understanding what are the processes, people, technology, and tools that we need on the inside of the organization in order to deliver on that customer journey. So that's where I would look is if we're trying to get support or help or build those coalitions, that's one way to do it. The other thing, and Paige, you have seen this a lot too. We do a lot of kickoffs, right? Like we come in and kind of set the stage and say, this is what customer experience is here. And then we build together with those different teams within the organization. So everybody knows that this is something that we're taking seriously, that is part of who we are. And then you can actually kind of drill down into, okay, we're going to work with you, product team, or we're going to work with you, contact center, because we're looking at specific parts of the customer journey.
Yes, I was actually thinking that when you were speaking, like this is something that we see a lot, especially in like we do the kickoffs and then we usually end up in some kind of team workshop and
Mm-hmm.
really getting everybody involved and getting them to understand that no matter where you are, you have an impact on that journey and on that
That's right.
experience, and just connecting those dots and kind of Jeannie is so great. I've seen it time and time again every time we go on site or meet with a team, like getting people to kind of think about it from a different perspective than you do in your normal day-to-day job. Like
Mm-hmm.
to just take the lens back a little bit and say, oh, wow, I really do have an impact on this. And I want to be involved and I want it to be good. So
Yep.
it's really cool to see.
Well, thank you for that. And the thing I like to remind people too is like we were not taught to think this way. And so we can't say to somebody who isn't thinking about their role in customer experience, like, how dare you, right? Like, it's very much like, you know what, and we all are working with fewer resources, more to do. The pace of the world is such that we just have to keep up. And
Mhm.
so if I'm being judged as an employee and customer experience is never mentioned as part of my role, or I'm not really being told to care about it, then I'm not going to care about it. And
Right.
so that's the other thing, is looking at how are we really asking people to show up, and what are we asking them to really be evaluated on, and how can we support this throughout the organization. So getting buddy buddy with our HR partners, our learning and development partners, our internal communication partners, that can really, really help in this type of work too.
Yeah, because I think we talk a lot about it too, how much the employee experience and customer experience go hand in hand. So
Yep.
definitely your HR buddies are key in
Yes.
all of this.
Yes. We love HR and learning and development. That's
Yep. Well, I'm
great.
not seeing any more questions come through the chat.
Okay.
So I guess we can talk a little bit about how leaders can help educate themselves.
Yeah. So, well, thanks everybody for the great questions. Christopher, it's always so nice to see you. It's funny to think about how long we've been doing these lives, and Christopher's been with us pretty much from the beginning. So it's always so nice to see old friends and new friends here. So thank you for joining us. So when we talk about all of this stuff, sometimes it's hard to keep up. We have a course on LinkedIn called Customer Experience Trends. I encourage you to check that out. Uh, we have other courses there. We mentioned things like journey mapping and service blueprinting. I have 2 journey mapping courses and a service blueprinting course as well as CX foundations and some other things. So check that out if you have a chance. And if you have a LinkedIn Learning account, that's all there for you. I mentioned Flight School today. We have our membership program, Ground School and Flight School. We are about to launch another group of Ground School cohort members. So if you are interested, this is where we really help you set that vision and define success for your organization in a 12-week time frame. So it's on demand in many ways, so you can do it at your own pace, and then you get live support and Q&A with me and the team. So check that out at cxigroundschool.com, or just scan the QR code there.
I wanted to pop in and just say a quick
Yeah.
thing about ground school and flight school. They are so, so valuable. If you are a CX leader looking to just kind of think of things in a different way, or you know that you need something, but you keep running into a wall, or you're feeling very cyclical, like you're just going in circles over and over. I've heard that in many, many conversations. Ground school and flight school is a way to get a constant stream of education and tools from Jeannie and Jillian and all of these great CX minds, as well as one-on-ones with Jeannie and Q&As with Jeannie. to help you have that kind of expert in your pocket that can help you when you are in the weeds, when you are putting out those daily fires, reframe, like ask you a question that maybe you wouldn't have thought of because you're so in your day to day. So I would say it's a very, very valuable thing, and I'm a big proponent for it. So if anybody has any questions, I threw my email in the chat. Please feel free to reach out. Like, we would love to have you guys and help you grow your program to where you want it to be.
Excellent. Thank you, Paige. Yes, we are really loving our time with our ground school and flight school members and seeing kind of the growth there. And I will tell you that the size of companies, the types of companies, the international aspect of companies, we are seeing a whole spectrum of members. So if you feel like, oh, I'm not sure it's right for me, go ahead and reach out to Paige and we can talk you through that. But
Absolutely.
it's really, really, and it's really fun for me to see the growth and to be a part of those journeys as well. So we hope you'll join us there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we've got our podcast. And our podcast is, if you haven't ever listened to it, it's a little different. We are here for you. And so I answer one question a week on the podcast. You can find it on both YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts, where you can ask me anything about customer experience. We've covered a lot of ground in the last year. And we also started a monthly episode called CX Pulse Check, where I share with you and a special co-host different things that I'm seeing that are timely and relevant and current, different examples of creative CX or things to watch for, things like that. We have a lot of fun with that one too. So I encourage you to check that out. And please leave me a question. Ask Jeannie.vip. Anybody can leave me a question. You are free to leave it with your name and company and whatever identifiers you want, or you can ask me anonymously. We get a lot of those too. So feel free to check that out. And I hope you will subscribe wherever you are. And if you are a fan, we would love reviews, of course, and letting us know if you share it. We love that as well. So thank you so much for being here. As you know, the mission of our organization is to create fewer ruined days for customers. You being here with us helps us live that mission. Our goal is really to empower leaders like you. We want you to have the right resources, tools, education, and ways to communicate with confidence so that you get the investments that you need. You are provided the support and the resources you need in order to make your customers' days better. So this all leads to better business outcomes. This is what we're all about. So if you have questions, if you have concerns, if you have comments, we love hearing from you. Feel free to reach out. If you need that support, we have so many resources on our site. Please check that all out at experienceinvestigators.com. Paige and I will be back in June. Paige, I think we said June 17th. Is that right?
June 21st.
June 21st. Yeah. I'm glad that you're here. So yes, we will see you on June 21st with another topic. If there are topics you want us to cover, feel free to let us know that too. Yeah. Until next time, enjoy the spring into summer wherever you are. And we cannot wait to see you next time. Thanks, everybody.